Abbas. Thank you very much for being with us. Maria Pia is an influencer. She's worked with various entities. She's a fintech specialist, has been involved in the digital cyber security and digital world for a very long time. So she can definitely show us how to navigate this new environment. I'd like to ask you, Maria Pia, what pushed you in that direction? Why did you decide to do that?
Well, first of all, I have, I'm economist. I've been specialized in the financial sector, and also I have a master's degree in public policy. And for more than 10 years, I was discussing about new business model with Don Tapscott, that is a global thinker and in the deal space. But in those days that we started, there was not a business model that could achieve global challenges. And that's why once I got involved in blockchain, I just got fall in love, because now we have the opportunity to create a new asset class, data-driven, and with that create a much more sustainable economy or token economy. And actually, in some or another, NFTs, including art, include that because, for instance, today NFT allows someone to invest directly in the art asset compared to investing on a fund that doesn't give you the right on the asset. It's just the right on the right of the asset. And that can make a huge difference, because in the future, this means that art could be a collateral for instance, for lendings or other kind of, money that you could ask for the financial sector. And actually today in DeFi, you can find that NFTs and other data-driven asset class are used as collateral for loans.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. We'll get back to exactly what an NFT is, but I'd like to introduce quickly Mr. Carlos Moreira, who's the founder of WiseKey Art. He's got huge experience, vast experience in the cyber world for the last 25 years. He's told me once, which was very interesting, that he's been lucky enough in his lifetime to live through two revolutions. The first one was the creation or the invention of the web, the World Wide Web. And I'm sure you'll tell us more about that. And now you're going into the metaverse, which is what, the fourth dimension. Do you want to talk to us a little bit?
Sure, 16, nice to talk to you, and congratulations to organize this event. So yes, I think we are what we call the Internet 3.0, right? So the first one was the ARPANET. That was the military internet that everything started from. Then you have the World Wide Web that decentralized the entire infrastructure. So I was part of that development. Like, this started here in Geneva, and I was at the UN at that time. And that internet combined with the web allow a decentralization, means that you could access information anywhere from any site without the need to go into a hub or a host that will control the dissemination of the information. So that was the hyperlinked environment. And the metaverse is basically the blockchain revolution. I mean, metaverse is a kind of hype name, but what it is minting assets into the blockchain as a way to make sure that whatever is going to go into the blockchain can then be expanded, enhanced with all kind of graphics enhancements and VRML and artificial intelligence capabilities to enhance the experience. So it is the Hollywood action merged with the boring internet actions, right? So it is a next destination, but the metaverse does not solve the problems that we had before on the internet. I mean, the problems are still there. Cybersecurity issues related to losing assets on the metaverse, identity issues, who owns my identity on the metaverse, digital twin issues, how can I bring a physical object to become a virtual object, making sure that it's only one and you need to trace back. So those are the issues that WiseKey works at different level, and both as a cybersecurity company, but also developing our own marketplace because we wanted to test it. I mean, we wanted to learn from our own experience so we can advise our clients then when they need to do NFTs. And this is what we are doing now.
And I think you also once said it's very important to keep the human aspect of things at the center of all this technology, because we're at a turning point, and it's for us to control it. So you wrote a book as well about keeping the human in the center of this whole new environment.
Correct, and that's actually the when I founded WiseKey, that was the objective, to have a company that humanizes technology, means that humans are protected in the fourth industrial revolution, which is the revolution that we are all studying now, and metaverse is the first product of that revolution as converges technology. But humans are not yet represented on the internet, neither on the metaverse. The metaverse might have avatars, but this avatar is not me, right? So the avatar needs to be related with me. Otherwise, this avatar might be out of control and do things that I am not willing that avatar to do. So the relation between the physical person, which is the human, and its avatar is as important as the relation between a Picasso painting and his digital twin. You need to create that interrelation. The problem is companies that they are monetizing humans, like social media companies, do not want to have this differentiation, because they want to own the digital representation of the person of the metaverse, because they understand that there's where the money is going to be, right? The business model will be to monetize this avatar, detrimental to the privacy and information that this human needs to be provided. But I always say the metaverse sounds great, but before to get into the metaverse, you have to be in a place, you have to be in a desk in front of a computer. So you have to start from a physical connection into the metaverse, right?
Yeah.
What I think is dangerous, and I conclude there, is that some companies, they are saying future generations are going to be logged on by default on the metaverse, and they will log off. They will, leave the metaverse to come into the real life. I mean, imagine a young kid that will stay longer in the metaverse because it sounds great and looks great, beautiful colors, beautiful graphics. And after, when he turns his computer, he will see the dark reality of the world, right? We don't want that society. We need a society that knows to make the difference between what is the fantasy and what is the reality. And that's what WiseKey does. The Transhuman Code bestseller was, I was in the Vatican a few weeks ago, discussing with moral leaders about the need to keep the human at the center of gravity. And then NFTs and other things will expand and will become very successful while we maintain humanity in control.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what you can do. Of course, there's always the yin and the yang, the good and the bad, the dark and the real. But I mean, just now we're all hearing about the latest or the new ABBA concerts, and they're all coming in as holograms. I mean, back in the age of when they were young, but now they're in their 80s. So it's amazing what can happen. And you're right, we need to stay in control. So as the art director of Wise Art, which will be launched soon, that's what we'll try and do. We'll go side by side, and we'll have physical works of art with their twins, but we'll also have, newborn digital works of art that will be of very high quality, as well as the initials, the original CryptoPunks and Lazy Apes and all those guys that started it all. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. Last but not least, we've got our tech wizard here, Andreas Moreira. So keeping the human in the center, Mr. Carlos, who just spoke with us, he's made it into a family business, which is great. So I won't go into details how it is to work with your dad, Andrea, but how is it going for you? What are the difficulties? How can you explain to people what you're doing?
Yeah, it's always like a very interesting question, because people are very curious about blockchain and all the technology related, but they don't seem to get it right away. I mean, not with some training. So, I mean, my personal story with blockchain started about 5 years ago when I was playing a video game. It was a car video game where you could buy some cars and you had some paints, you can trade with other players, and it was quite fun to do so. But one thing that was very interesting, I thought, was the economics behind it, because the developers intended to create a very, let's say, centralized system where they control the currency inside of the platform. So you could only use this specific currency in the platform. And at the time, I was still finishing my studies in the university, and I was very curious about blockchain and Bitcoin specifically, because this was, usually one of the first cryptos people learn about. And I actually did my first cryptocurrency transaction by selling some of those virtual cars that are not NFTs per se, because they don't live on the blockchain. They're just digital items. But I was able to sell them to another player for actual Bitcoins, right? And I processed this first transaction. It was a very steep learning curve at the beginning. So especially a few years ago, right? It was even harder. There's not all the tools that we have today. But it was so interesting. It was so fascinating to see what are the possibilities for people to bypass all the centralized systems that are intended sometimes for the good of the players, to avoid scams and to avoid bad practices. But sometimes it's just a way of restricting the liberties of people to transact in free markets. So since then, I really dug into the rabbit hole. I went full into all the ecosystem of cryptocurrencies, blockchain project, and so on. And since then, it never left me the passion. Specifically, I've been working wisely in the field of blockchain for a few years now, but in the last few months, we have seen a huge focus into NFTs. But NFTs are not new either, right? I mean, NFTs were already there when I started to look into blockchain. I mean, famously, one of the big first NFT project that no one seems to be talking about, that was the rage at the time, was CryptoKitties, right? It was so famous, this game, that the Ethereum blockchain, which was used to make this game work, was completely saturated with people transacting kittens, digital kittens. I actually have a NFT bought on this platform a few years ago. I think it's worthless now, but to show you that I was actually quite interested in this. But we've seen that all those limitations in the past, they have the community, the developers have been really focused on and working on so much, even when we saw the decline in 2018, 2019 of the cryptocurrency bubble. People left, because they thought it was all a scam. It was, it was not serious. It was never going to work out. We see that people are coming back, and we see this is here to stay.
Yeah, I think so as well. I should tell the audience that we are recording this session, and we'd also like to invite the audience to come and ask questions. So you can go down here on the Q&A button, and you can write your questions down, and we will try and answer them as they come up. But I think the development of this big democratization, if you like, of all that technology was also thanks to us being cooped up inside during COVID. And I read a story about, there was another game, not kitties, but it was called Neopets, where you could feed your pet as you went, and you got points, etc. And those pets sort of died as people grew older or went to university or whatever. And during COVID, they went back and they saw their pets all half dead and crying and everything. So they started to play again and brought their pets back to life. So it's really, when it's on the blockchain, it doesn't go away. And so you can rekindle it. One of the big things, of course, that drew our attention, and everybody knows about it now, it's this Beeple artwork that was sold a few months back for $69 and some million. So this is what the art world has really taken off. And I think at every gallery, even at Art Basel, there were galleries, and we spoke to them, that had either twin NFTs, as I said, of physical arts, or were interested in learning, and this is where all our questions should come in, or just brand new art. And some of it is getting a lot more sophisticated than the original CryptoPunks and so on. But yeah, cybersecurity is a very important field in this sort of rush for gold, I should say, in the, in the far west of the environment. So this is where WiseKey comes in, and it's very important. Carlos, do you want to tell us why it's so important?
Yeah, so as the price of these NFTs are getting more and more expensive, you just mentioned the increase to 60 something million, but there's now some of the kitties are being traded by 350 million. The problem, what happened if one day you're trying to collect back your NFT and the website has disappeared, or the marketplace has gone belly up and basically discontinued services. So all these issues on how to ensure that your assets are protected and you can recover back are very important. Also, how do you protect companies against IP theft? Imagine that somebody will do an NFT of your intellectual property without you to know. And they will sell that NFT and basically sell your intellectual property. And this is happening already. We have clients calling us very concerned about people using their intellectual property and creating NFTs on their intellectual property. People then they are also concerned about the cryptocurrency abuses. I mean, let's say that I want to do money laundering and I will just do an NFT and sell it. And with the money I get, I just basically, launder my money. So there's a lot of abuses on the dark web about illicit trade. And, it's a $5 trillion problem, right? So it is 5% of the global economy is illicit. And that illicit economy is also looking very carefully the way to use NFTs as a way of conducting crime. So this is the job of cybersecurity companies. I mean, and WiseKey has been very early in the game, as Andreas just mentioned. We started to play with identity on the blockchain about 4 years ago. Then we developed our own platform, which is wise.art. We have done some tests on the platform, high-end watches, $1 million Jacob watch, just to learn. I mean, the idea was not to go in competition with OpenSea, one of those existing platforms, but just to learn as a cybersecurity company, how can we protect our clients? And now the platform is mature enough to go live, and this is what you just said a few minutes ago, but also to team with our partners. We are after very high-end NFTs. Some of them, they're going to be multi-$100 million NFTs, and they're going to be launched next year. And those NFTs will require a level of cybersecurity superior to anything now in the market. I remind you that it's public information. OpenSea was hacked a few weeks ago and they lost NFTs. Obviously, we don't want that to happen with our platform. So we're also providing the technology that WiseKey has as a white label. So if a company wants to launch their own NFTs, but they want to keep their brand recognition, we are also offering them the possibility of taking our source code, adapt to their existing platforms, and do NFT with the cybersecurity backend that WiseKey provides. So it is maybe the only first truly cybersecurity mine NFT platform in the market. We don't want to be, again, an NFT player. That's not our vocation. We want to be the gate that makes sure that when you move something from the physical world to the metaverse, that gate is secure. So we are like entering into a highway. You have a gate, you have to pay, and after you pay, you can use the highway as much as you want. So that's the role of WiseKey. We don't want to be the highway. We want to be the toll into the highway, into the metaverse.
Okay, that sounds good. We do have a question from a gentleman called David Abad, so thank you very much. Do you, and I don't know who it's directed to, it might be Pia, do you know about Decentraland?
Yes. Well, Decentraland, actually, Carlos also have mentioned it in his conference in Rome. You can achieve Decentraland by just desktop. That is, first of all, something that in some way it still doesn't compete with what Facebook is looking forward to do. But what is happening there's a lot of people are buying properties, they're offering services, and what is interesting, it has to do with something that Carlos spoke about. It has to do with identity. You can have a different identity in Decentraland, and you can be successful and have a different life than the one that you have in your real life. And what is interesting that this model still works. You get into it with your laptop. But imagine in the future, once the metaverse or meta that Facebook is thinking about, that will also include, virtual reality, that will be much more sensorial, and they're going to happen similar things. So it's very, very interesting, and everything is in some or another speed up, everything is because of the blockchain. I also would like to say something. First of all, I want to congratulate Andrea, because actually I would say that he pushed WiseKey very early, some few years ago, with WiseCoin into the, exploring, crypto assets. Okay, and this was very key, because then when these people, when people, did his auction and NFT became popular, WiseKey had already the tools combining what we're doing before, real identities, etc., to react very quickly and start testing with actually the first auction of the first luxury watch, and connecting the physical and the digital world. And that is very, very important, because this happened when there are just very few people, very few listed companies worldwide that in 2018 were thinking to get into understanding and testing crypto assets. And that's why today WiseKey provides different services, because, as Carlos mentioned, once we get much more curated assets, especially in art, that means that you will need cybersecurity, you will need that also the provenance of the real asset. It's real. And especially because even Facebook is thinking on bringing even physical assets to the metaverse. And yes, so it's very, very exciting what is happening. And I would say that the central node is like the first step of the metaverse, but in some few years to come, imagine with AI, with virtual AI, it's going to be very sensorial.
No, I think you're right. And it's very important, as we said, Andreas was ready to quickly turn around. And now we've built a team of people who are going to keep the human side in the center and will give tailor-made service. We'll also have opportunities to accompany those who are interested in onboarding, but really don't know how to start. And so that's what we're all about. We will accompany people all the way and help and suggest and even help price them. I think we've decided also to sort of have a vetting committee that will be looking at each work individually. And so we're not going to be like an open sea in a big supermarket place. And I think that's important. And for those who are listening, who are from the art world and whom we met at Art Basel, rest assured the security, we've got the know-how, and we'll assist you with your artworks to make sure that they're properly displayed.
16, maybe one point, because I think what both Andreas and Marie-Pia raises are important points, that when we talk about Facebook or even Microsoft, I mean, metaverse is meta, means for everybody. I mean, the beauty of the metaverse is the decentralization of the blockchain. It is actually the blockchain that brings to the metaverse its universal aspect. It's no point to create a Facebook metaverse or a Microsoft metaverse or an Apple metaverse, because if we do, we're going to end up having the same problems that we are having now, right? Which is you are in a closed gate. I mean, Facebook is a closed community. You only do things among people in Facebook. The algorithm can be tweeted in a way that you just see the news you like to see, or talk to the people that are in agreement with you. If we continue doing that in the metaverse, that will be a terrible metaverse. That will be a metaverse that will be aggravating the problems that we are aggravating now. Facebook has been highly criticized in the last month by all sorts of sources as being addictive, being manipulative, being untrustful, being a place where actually you are creating more problems than solutions. So imagine if we let that to continue, there's a cooperation between Facebook and Ray-Ban, on where you're going to have now Ray-Ban glasses with cameras on where you're going to be filming everything. So you're going to go in a restaurant with your cameras and filming your neighbor. What about privacy? What about your private life? What about me? I don't want to be on the metaverse. I want to stay outside the metaverse. So you need cybersecurity companies to jump into this. Not only WiseKey, I invite all of them, because this is a serious problem. If we are just aggravating the problems we have on social media without solving them and bringing those problems to the metaverse, we are going to a very bad society that we don't want to be. So we need the privacy, we need the ownership of digital identity, we need our consent to be respected. The things that WiseKey defends since many years, they need to embed it into the code of the metaverse. Not only wishful thinking, that needs to be programmed inside the coding of the metaverse. And then organizations like Facebook, Microsoft, and others, if they want to enter the metaverse, will be not their metaverse, will be a universal metaverse on where you will have many different gates. Some of them, there will be VIP gates, like when you go in Disney World, you have a fast track, other will have to queue, but everybody has the same experience without the need to self-sacrificing my personal data because I want to enter into the metaverse. We need to stop that to happen. Otherwise, we're not building a very good infrastructure.
No, it's true, but I also think there is the KYC component, which WiseKey is working on, so that the people who do enter get their digital identification pass, or like they have that passport that allows them in as well. And that might also slow down a little bit the flash loans and all that sort of thing that goes on, which sort of floors the market or the valuation of the market a little bit. Is that correct?
Totally.
Maria, maybe you're into fintech, so you know what goes on.
Well, yes, what is going on actually, it's changing and evolving every single month, I would say. But yes, it's very interesting what is happening, and I hope that also because, as I mentioned before, crypto assets are now being used as collateral in DeFi and the decentralized finance. And for art and artists, this is an enormous opportunity, and for collectors too. So it's very exciting, but it's so important. And what is going to happen in the coming years is that some projects in the DeFi that are mixed, that have this focus, they will not be able to scale up because they don't have a cybersecurity, because if you want to scale something into the next DeFi to the next level, you need cybersecurity, you need what you mentioned, 16 KYC and proper, because you need to protect the consumer, and this is going to be key. And also it's going to be very important where your digital asset is stored. Okay, because there's a lot of companies that used to just think in the short run, and they don't see of whatever can happen, and they don't think about those black swans that they could happen. And in the future, our data is going to be worth a lot of money, and our digital assets too. And remember that our digital assets, and that the ownership of probably a lot of our assets, including some physical ones, are going to be digital. So it's also so important in terms of cybersecurity to ask, where those assets are stored, and that is also key.
Yeah. No,
16, I have a question for you about, you are an expert on the art industry. How do you see the art industry grasping the potential of the NFT? Are we at the beginning? Do you think this is going to accelerate? This is a very important feedback from the art industry, the traditional art industry.
Yeah, I agree. And from having talked to quite a few people, I think there is the traditional and also museums, etc., who are very interested because it can protect. It digitalizes, which they need to do. Some museums are way behind, and the art world in general with the digital sort of ignored it for a very, very long time. So that traditional, I think the idea of security of know your client sort of ID, digital ID and all that will reassure them. I think they are interested. I've also been speaking with collectors who like to have that I won't call it an ego trip, but I mean, to just have that knowledge psychologically to be the only one to own the link or the key to whatever painting is of great interest, and people are willing to pay a lot of money to do that. And that's where these crazy valuations are coming from. As I understand it, the NFT component of a physical artwork is around about 10% of the valuation of the physical artwork. And then, of course, there's all those artists that have been playing with digital for a quarter of a century already. I mean, Andy Warhol was doing digital art. So now that's all being brought out to the light, and also give it the NFT and the blockchain component, give it credibility. So I think there's those two aspects. Those artists who use it as a new tool and technology, and it's fun to play with, and being immediately on the blockchain in the hundreds of years to come, we won't have any problems identifying those works like we do now with old masterworks. So, I mean, the interest is definitely there, and it's obvious how useful it will be and important it is. So I think it's a big turn, and the art industry is now recognizing it, definitely. And then as far as the collectors, well, a lot of them come from the gaming industry, and even Christie's and Sotheby's, who embrace the new technology and are selling NFTs, they're saying that they're getting new clients that were only interested in the digital, that are now all of a sudden looking at the rest of the catalog and are buying physical for the first time. So that's also, interesting to anybody in the art market, because it will bring a new pool of clientele.
I agree. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, I believe this is the general shift that we're seeing, from the older, let's say, traditional generation that valued the physical assets, those paintings, the traditional artworks, into a more digital native population that grew up with the internet, grew up with the emergence of social medias, and I mean, the good and the bad sides of it, the gatekeeping, the issues about privacy, the issues about cyberbullying, and so on, right? I think one of the biggest challenge I will see in the future will be to, as my father said, that we need to open those ecosystem up to avoid all those digital borders, to cloud our judgment, to enable to talk with people and live a digital true life with the people that are used to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and also from the side of investors and collectors, I would say that legacy is key. In some other, I have had the opportunity to talk to collectors here in Italy, and when they always said that they have a kind of, feeling about a sculptures, or something that they, it's very valuable, and they have it in a vault. And once we start discussing, they realize that also, NFTs was a way to prevail this legacy, also the history that is already, have provenance of important, moments of any kind of valuable piece of art. And this is very, very important, because first of all, remember that in the internet, you never know if, it's very difficult to identify a fake news from a real story. So for them, it's very important, because this can prevail the real story and give this, and for the generations to come. And from the investor point of view, also, I would like to say that what is also interesting, that apart from the piece of art, a digital piece of art, remember that investors also, think in the long run in terms of that the process of a painting, the story of the painter is also part of the investment. Okay, so and what is interesting is that, through NFT, you can also, add this kind of storytelling as part of the piece of art. And what is amazing, and that is something that we didn't have, in physical art, and now we have it for physical art. If they have a digital twin, or for native digital art, what is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I'll get back to that, because it's a very good point. But we have a question here from Nicola Savoretti. Thank you, Nicola. are the blockchain cryptocurrencies here to stay? More and more countries are trying to regulate them. People might lose interest in them with time. So who wants to take that? Yes, please.
Go ahead, Carlos.
No, I think this is a question for both of you and Andreas. I think you should answer that question. Maybe it started with Andreas, if I suggest, because he has been following that very closely.
Yeah. This is a very interesting part. I mean, in the community, there's people who are for regulation. There are people who are against. It is quite interesting. I believe in some ways we need to regulate the cryptocurrencies, especially to protect the people, right? I mean, protect the people that may be scammed. There's lots of ways to, scam people to get all their crypto out of their wallets, right? You won't have a bank that will help you to protect you. You have to rely on yourself, or you have to rely on a third party that, might not have the source of trust that most traditional banks or most financial advisor can give you. So this is a huge point where we need to help people with their security. Not only security, but also let's say the financial tools that are now very easy to attain for anyone. Anyone today can create an account, an exchange account where they can start buying and trading cryptocurrency, and you easily have access to specialized tools such as leverage market, where you can borrow lots of money and potentially lose a huge part of your cryptocurrency fortune based on the motivation that people follow huge influencers on Twitter and other places where you see those influencers that have made a lot of money in the boom, not only in the crypto boom, but as well on the stock boom since the COVID crash. Lots of fortunes have been made. We've seen huge subreddits like Wall Street Bets that have exploded in popularity. For example, fueled by the GameStop stock mania. And we've seen not only in crypto, but overall, there's lots of people making a lot of money, but we don't talk about all the people potentially losing everything. People that leverage their house, that they refinance the mortgage, and they're trying to make a quick buck on this because they see the potential is great, and they lose everything. And because those people are often young people, maybe my age or even younger, we need to really, I would say, regulate this and be very careful to what type of financial tools we're giving to people and how we can educate them to not only make good financial decisions, but as well to protect their security, their wallets specifically.
Yes, I totally agree with Andrea. I just would like to complement that crypto assets in general, not just cryptocurrency, also stable coins, utility tokens, central banks, digital currency, and all the other kind of crypto assets that exist in the ecosystem, they came here to stay. We need to understand that we are going through the new technologies of the monetary system. I always tell the same story, but it really illustrates the point of what we are in history. In the in Rome, the denario was the currency that was used for trade, but they lose the confidence of the people because they decide to introduce less precious metal on the coin, and they kept the same nominal value. And then the Fiorino di Oro, appeared, and they decided that it was a must to prevail the same amount of gold in the coin, to prevail, to recover trust. And El Fiorino di Oro became the most used coin because, the denario lose its trust, like what is happening with the US dollar. And what is much more interesting is that the Fiorino di Oro, or the golden Fiorino, just appeared some few years before the Renaissance. And Bitcoin arrived some few years of the digital Renaissance that we are now, because finally the metaverse, it has to do with that. It has to do with the fourth industrial revolution, that it's really a digital Renaissance where a lot of paradigms that we had are broken. because of this convergence. And so it's part of a process. Then the bill came, that was a new technology in the monetary system, and and now we have crypto. I mean, we have cryptography. And we have this. In my case, I have been discussing this with counselors of central banks, and actually with a team, we are making a proposal for the Banco Centroamericano of Integración Económica. It's a central bank of in Central America, that because even in El Salvador, with all the problems that they have in terms of a very I would say no tier one financial system. Okay, now that they have Bitcoin, if they make the right decisions, they could have a very in terms of what Andreas spoke. Regulation structures that protect the consumer and at the same time cybersecurity, etc. They could have a first-class financial system even with Bitcoin. So they came here to stay.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or not.
There are some countries that say, unfortunately, our citizens go hungry and they might not have a roof over their heads, but they've all got mobile phones, which means they've all got access.
Yes, at the same time, what happens is that if we're moving through the metaverse, okay, there's no other chance. I mean, you cannot have a payment system in legacy infrastructure as we do have now in the metaverse. So there's no, and I spoke about this in this webinar with a central bank counselor. There's no other way. If they want to be their currency to be used in the metaverse, they need to use cryptography. There's no other way.
I guess if I just can add something, we are in a trust deficit society, right? So what is happening, and this is the fourth industrial revolution consequences, that because we are shifting from analog to digital and we are moving from the third industrial revolution to the fourth, the shift of power is going to be happening everywhere, in all sectors. This is not only on the financial sector, it happens on the government sector, it happens on the health sector. There is a full transformation happening. The crypto economy is just one of the many things, right? And some countries will react the same way they reacted in the third industrial revolution, by blocking everything, by making difficult, by trying to over-regulate. We have been seeing what happened in some Asian countries. But at the end of the day, because we are in a peer-to-peer decentralized infrastructure, and that's what the blockchain uniqueness has brought to the equation, is very hard technically to control. So that means that even if they try, because they will try, because this is normally how the status quo has happened over centuries, they will not be able to do it, because the decentralization of the access is so important. That's why I insist so much about the identity layer. The only thing they could control is the identity of the person, because you need a person in order to create a metaverse digital twin of that person. So if that person identity is controlled by somebody, whatever that is, an institute, a bank, or a government, or whatever, that control will be reflected on the metaverse. That's why if the humans are free in terms of using their own identity without no restriction, they will be impossible to regulate. And I think they should not regulate. I think we are moving towards a decentralized economy, decentralized society. This is maybe not in people with my age normal, because we're coming from the centralized trust model where we have a pyramidal trust structure. But people with the ages of Maripia and Andreas feel much more comfortable for decentralized peer-to-peer trust, and this is what is going to remain.
Yeah. Yes, and what Carlos says is basic about the identity. Also, because, for instance, if a central bank creates their digital currency, we are not, who is going to be able to access to that information? And the only way that we can control and own our data and go through that decentralized society that Carlos speaks, is that we own the identity. Otherwise, we cannot, be 100%, because blockchain allows a lot of things, but finally it depends on the design of that who is going to be able to audit information, access, etc. So, as Carlos always says, digital identity is the key. Yeah. It's our key for our privacy, for our security, and also that is something that is so important, is to really own the assets that we, and we can, in some way or another, create a society also where we can receive, what we contribute to the economy, because finally there's a lot of companies that are making a lot of money with our data. We don't capitalize it, and we should be able to do so.
Yeah. Or redirect it and do some impact investment or something like that to help the society. Coming back a little, I hope we've answered your question, Nicola. Coming back a little bit to the art world, because we have an audience here of galleries and everything. I think it's also important that it can be used. The environment is so huge and so global that it can be used to fundraise future exhibitions. It can be used to fundraise or support artists. And of course, there's this new aspect as well, where if you sell a piece, it's inscribed with an NFT in the blockchain, and then there is a recurring royalty payment which happens every time a movement goes in with the work. And so that's also something quite new, which will revolutionize. It's already happening in the music industry, obviously, with copyrights and things, but not so much in the art world. And Andreas, how do you see that improving?
No, this is a huge game changing, right? Because before, even, as you said, in the music industry, it exists already with copyrights, but even in the music industry, this is not an automated process. You still need lawyers, you still need lots of legal work, you still need to be sure that the people will pay or can pay. This is not efficient, right? With the use of royalties into smart contracts, you enable this to be done automatically based on the fact that every time a piece of art, an NFT, will be sold in the program, there will be a percentage or a base fee that will be directed directly to either the owner of the original painting, or maybe it will be a foundation, and this can be programmed in and cannot be changed later, right? So this is a huge game changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an important point, is that an NFT, for those who don't know, is that's what it means, non-fungible token.
Yeah.
So
maybe I should start by this, actually. So an NFT, exactly, it's a non-fungible token. So actually, we talk a lot about digital art in NFTs, but NFTs is more than this. It's data, in serious data. Why data? Because all types of data are different and can be distinguished from one to another. They're packaged as tokens and can be traded, or not necessarily traded. They can be just held or shared with other people. But this is a huge difference with, let's say, normal cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ether, which are fungible. The fungibility means that they can be traded. One Bitcoin, my Bitcoin would be the same as your Bitcoin, right? But an NFT, as it is in art or data, will always be unique.
Yeah.
Another important thing for the art industry is the huge business opportunity that this is creating, right? Because if I am an artist and I want to start to sell my art, now the possibilities are very narrow. We know so many artists, and they will never be selected by a gallery. And if they do, the gallery will take maybe 40% of the art price, and they will. And that's why we always say, if you are an artist, you will die poor. Because it's so hard to break through being an artist, because the system is so inefficient of promoting art. Now with NFT, it's a different world. First of all, we are now an audience there which are sitting in $1.5 trillion economy, which is the crypto economy, right? This is as big as Apple together. The entire markup of Apple is now Bitcoin valuation, right? And if you add that to Ether and others, you are reaching something like $7 trillion economy. So this is people that they are willing now today to buy an NFT of art, because they know that by doing that, they can make actually even more money than they already made on Bitcoin, because the NFT will increase in value. So the day they will sell the NFT, they sell the profit they made with NFT, but also the fact that the Bitcoin are now at higher ever price record, right? So it's a very dynamic economy, and that economy doesn't have yet a lot of products. I mean, if you go and see how many arts are converted to NFT, maybe that is 1% or even less of the entire supply of art in the world. So if I will be an artist, I will be today creating an NFT, because that's a way for me to sell it and also to protect it. So it's an amazing business opportunity for the art world.
Mm-hmm. We have, in that respect, we have another question. The question was, NFTs should be linked to the cryptocurrencies or be separate to the instrument of art? So I think they should be maybe separate. We're talking about maybe creating our own wallet as well, no? With trust.
Yeah, maybe Andreas can answer that on trust.
Yeah, so I mean, this is interesting, right? NFTs, I mean, as per se, there are tokens, they're still cryptocurrencies. So they're still displayed in a wallet per se, because they work by the same logic that you need the same certification of security for wallets, the same protocols. You know, when you go on the blockchain explorer, it's pretty much like the Google of Ethereum or Bitcoin. You can view all the details as to who is sending and to whom, and what is the current amount of one type of crypto, and at what time was done. So it's not necessarily very private. I mean, the information is not displayed as who those people are, what those addresses are belonging to them. But I mean, NFTs, they abide by the same rule, right? Because if you want to be able to send a transaction on a blockchain, you need to display those type of information. So on the technology side, it works the same way. So you still need wallet, right? But for the users, this will, I believe in the future, it will be very easy, very plug and play, right? I mean, I believe people who will log in the metaverse, they will not have to deal with all the very clunky and hard to grasp interfaces that we have with current wallets. And it's, you know, lots of trading, lots of economy stuff that has to go around. Lots of people, they don't seem to get it or seem to care to get it, but they will care about logging in on their favorite virtual space where they can display their favorite digital IKEA set. I mean, you can imagine that, for example, IKEA being, okay, sure, we're gonna, for every piece of furniture that you're gonna buy, we're gonna give you a free NFT of the same furniture for your digital world. I mean, how cool is that? That's super fun.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And in fact, many brands, Balenciaga, who's the designer, dress designer, he's now dressing the characters in the games, and you can buy the dresses or the clothes, sell them off again, etc. So I mean, definitely it's happening. One question that I'm getting from a lot of artists, some gallerists, but mainly artists, is the environmental impact that it's having. So I know there's some platforms already that are talking, going, you know, with less carbon imprint, and how's that going? And is it really that important? I know there's climate change and all that, but I mean, flying all the artworks to a fair is similar, or not worse, if not worse.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Andreas.
No. Okay, I just wanted to say a quick word. I mean, I do believe it's important, right, to be eco-friendly and to be responsible about our emissions. I think personally, one thing that is often talked about on the blockchain space is the carbon. Why? It's because it's actually the first time that we can exactly quantify how much energy is actually used to mine and to transact on the. So it is very transparent, right? There's no way anyone can lie about how much Bitcoin is using in terms of energy, how much Ethereum is using in terms of energy. The developers can only try to improve, right, with the different ways of approaching the mechanism system. So we talk, for example, about proof of stake instead of proof of work to use less efficient machines to do validation of the nodes. But I mean, in real life, as you said, it is very hard to quantify how much an artist that will transport his paintings from Europe to US, from let's say Art Basel to Art Basel in Miami, how much does that, what is the impact of this? This is not transparent. This is not easily quantifiable. So, I mean, I think this is a very important point to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, just 1 second, Maria. We just announced yesterday actually a cooperation between WiseKey and SunX. SunX is an environmental project on friendly tourism. So SunX was founded by the previous Director General of the United Nations Tourist Organization in Madrid. And it's a process of CO2 compensation for the tourist industry, basically. So that means that I can compensate during my travel behavior during the year with concrete causes that they are audited as being able to prove that they are compensating CO2, which is that was discussed in Glasgow this week. Is a very big subject, but I think one of the things the metaverse is offering, which is you just mentioned, 16, is the possibility of reducing the CO2 impact on creating a $1 trillion luxury industry that is building very expensive boutiques in the Fifth Avenue, traveling people with private jets on events. I mean, all that will disappear. You don't need to do that. I mean, you just go into the metaverse and you get the same experience without the need to move from your living room. So we will create, obviously, because Bitcoin and blockchain uses a lot of energy, we know that, but reduces also, compensates by the fact that we have less dependency on the physical material world. That is very expensive. I was talking the other day with a very famous watch manufacturer in Geneva, and he was telling me, to produce a 25,000 watch, luxury watch, the CO2 print is huge, because you have to go Africa, collect the gold, the diamonds. I mean, all that is mining. It's at the end of the day, holding a physical watch is not very environmental friendly, sustainable. But if you do that watch, the same watch on the metaverse, which is your watch, but you don't need to wear it because it is on the metaverse, you're reducing that price, right? So we need to calculate, maybe that statistic is not yet available. That will be actually a very interesting study on how much the metaverse is going to reduce the CO2 impact by virtualizing objects and without the need to produce them, to manufacture them. So those are the solutions ahead of us.
Yes, yes. First of all, we need to understand that Bitcoin consume half the energy that all the financial system worldwide consumes. Okay, and it doesn't consume other kind of resources like the bank system does. Because we use paper and other resources in the process. At the same time, new blockchains and protocols, they are much more or less energy consumer, okay? And at the same time, as you mentioned, Andrea, you mentioned, Andrea mentioned that we can measure the CO2 that we use. And as you mentioned, 16, with the smart contracts, we could even, in some way or another compensate any, in a project that, promotes decarbonization, for instance, or things like that, when you sell any kind of piece of art. So what is magical about these kind of digital assets. We can do this and attach them, in a contract that, as you said, that you cannot you cannot change, and so this prevails. It's not just one shot, it's something that can be prevail in the future. So this is what is amazing. And this is the kind of economy, sustainable economy, that I was talking about in the first question.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's very true, that it's much easier now to crowd fund with that sort of technology.
Yes. And actually, remember the watch, remember the Swatch Earth watch that WiseKey auctioned some few months ago. Everything was went for this kind of project. So,
Kobe
this can be done. Exactly.
Charity, yeah, absolutely. We have one more question, and then I'll do a wrap up, because thank you for your time, but we have one more question. For an individual, it's from Dario Rodriguez, so thank you very much. For an individual to control his own identity, he has to keep his own private cryptographic keys confidential. Otherwise, the avatars will be monetized over and above people. So how do you reconcile the requirement of secrecy with regulation, for example, KYC?
Yeah, so in a metaverse approach, we know how to do that on the traditional PKI, public infrastructure approach, right? Because the PII, the personal identifiable information, is actually your key. And then that key is always encrypted, so you're not going to share that key with anybody. It's your secret, but the market recognizes that key as a way to authenticate yourself. The KYC aspect in Switzerland, for instance, you want to have that key, you have to send to WiseKey evidence that you are the person you say you are, and we will issue you that key. Now in the metaverse, the thing is more complicated, because not only you need a key, but also there's going to be an avatar that is you. And how can I prove that that avatar is actually you, the person and the key? So that's why WiseKey is offering actually the possibility of NFT your identity on the metaverse. So actually one of the offering on the WiseR marketplace is that you can NFT your identity. And this is a service attached to WiseID, which is the WiseKey identity infrastructure. So you can issue a digital identity that is compatible with your browser, with your email, with whatever you do. And that identity will also be minted in the blockchain. So you will have an NFT, which is your identity. And on the top of that NFT, you can create your avatar. So the avatar talks to the NFT, which is in your control. And that is actually the alternative to avoid that your avatar is going to be created, let's say, by Facebook, and then Facebook will own that avatar. And if one day you don't want to use it anymore, you will not be able to do it, because you will have no ownership of the avatar. And imagine that you are doing so many things with the avatar. Imagine that avatar is the one you use to access holidays, virtual reality games, whatever that day, as it happens now with the WiseKey Connect, the Facebook Connect. If you loses the control of the Facebook Connect, doesn't connect to anything else. So that's the difference, right? The difference is that avatar that you're going to create is based on your digital identity, which is issued by WiseKey for the user under the control of the user. That was announced about 2 weeks ago, and that was a very big reception in the market, because this is the first time a company is doing that.
That's great. It's reassuring for the art collectors as well. And
yes.
Yeah. Dario, I hope we've answered your question. So we've gone a little bit over time. Just to let you know, the platform is currently onboarding artists and artworks. So please feel free to contact us anytime if you're interested. We will have 3 more webinars going a little bit more on how the process operates and what we need from you to do that. Again, thank you very much, Maria Pia, Carlos, and Andreas. It was lovely having you. Next time we will have some art historians talk as well, and who are connected with this digital world. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.